We're under no illusions which course will be going on YouTube.
No, they're all. Right then, here we are on the 11th of the 11th, 22. We've just paid homage to the 2-minute silence there for Armistice Day. And now we've got another fantastic group coming up who are going to entertain you, educate you, and delight you with the SMSTS CITB Site Setup Project Day. Andrew's going to be the first person, I believe, that's going to do the talking. So, Andrew, I will start the timer as soon as I hear your voice. Good luck, guys.
Andy?
Oh, you're on mute, mate.
You're on mute. Got to start again.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Andy. I'm working for the company MSAM PLC, who have gracefully won the bidding on this job. And to show our gratitude, we want to deliver the best results possible. And what we're going to do is we're going to introduce ourselves, each member of our team, and are going to give you a quick briefing on the areas that they are going to cover and make sure that this site setup is as plain sailing as can be. Sure.
Hi guys, so I'm working with MSAN's company. I've been with the company 2 years. I'm managing the services and the coordination of the site setup, and I'll just take you roughly around our site plan to give you an understanding of what we are doing. So our works are off of Bramley Road and School Road. We are working on this factory here. It's a factory refurbishment, and as you can see, this is where our site will be set up. We've created a site boundary around the outside of site, and during the security session later on, that'll be explained in a little bit more detail. We've had some constraints around this drain off here, and the local IDB needing access to that. So we've brought in our site boundary to avoid any conflict in that area. Just working onto site. Site is accessed through via School Road. This is quite a busy road due to the school located at the top of site. And because of that, we've implemented a one-way system. And again, that will be gone through in a little bit more detail with David in a minute. So just to take you around site, as you enter site on the right-hand side, there is some site car parking set up. The site set up with our cabins and welfare facilities and toilet blocks. The material storage for our site is to the left-hand side, and as you can see, there is pedestrian access routes all around site, segregated from the plant moving sites, which operate a one-way system. For this site, we have requested with the council and been permitted to put in a drop curb and an extra exit point to enable us to have the one-way system. So we do have permissions on that. And we've also, which will be discussed again later in our traffic management plan, put in a request with the council under Section 278 agreement to have the speed limit in this area reduced to 20 miles an hour whilst the works are ongoing. A couple of considerations around site. There is a farm in the local proximity, so we have communication with the farmer regarding works that he's doing. And we also have a building site opposite us that is run by a different developer, but we have coordinated with them, and we have regular weekly meetings in order to coordinate our works and their works and to manage the traffic around here the best. So just a bit of signage for you. As you're entering site, you will pick up on a couple of our signs. The site entrance is clearly marked with site entrance. We've also set up some signage around the local roads, just to warn you that you are entering an area where there is site works going on and we have a building site. Once you enter, there is our PPE signage just to tell you what areas you are requiring your PPE. And these documents are all within your packs that you can access later to find out the specific areas. Around site, we have fire points where you'll find fire extinguishers and such. And there is a fire muster point, which is indicated by this area here, just to the rear of the car park. Again, that will be gone over in a bit more detail in the emergency procedures. Again, signage. We do have to point out that one of the major hazards in our site is we have some overhead power lines. We have actually set in a safe system of work, but there will be no working going on under or around these overhead lines. As such, you can see our boundary has been adapted to suit that, and there is clearly a 6 metre radius around all equipment from its widest point, as indicated by our exclusion zone here. So again, in the traffic management later, we'll discuss we've got a reduced speed limit on site of 5 miles an hour. And it is a no smoking site. We do have smoking facilities up here, and that is the only area on site where you can smoke. As you enter site, you will notice a couple of signs that direct you to our site offices. But without further ado, I'll pass you over to my colleague David, who's going to talk to you in more depth regarding the traffic management plan.
Hello, good morning. My name is David, and I will be opportune to be handling your traffic on this particular site. I've been with MSAN, working for MSAN in the past 3 years, and having delivered several projects with no traffic accident whatsoever, I am grateful that I'll also be delivering that much on this project. All right, now wasting much of your time on this particular site, coming through Bramley Road, we've got our site entrance on the school road. And just like my colleague said earlier, we've got the permit to reduce. Originally, it's 40 miles per hour on the school road, which we have our entrance, but we have approached the authority and we have a permit to reduce it to 20 miles per hour because of the school children, the school in the environment. And that is one of the things we have done to manage our traffic. We've got parking areas on site, as you can clearly see, and our parking areas can take about 15 to 20 cars. We have decided to reduce, we have decided to take that little number of cars because of the busy environment that it is, and we have encouraged our workers as to a cycle to work scheme. We have also implemented a one-way system, and which makes us have just one entrance to the site and one main entrance and one exit. Every other exit are just emergency exits. And that makes it easier for us that that vehicles don't come in contact with pedestrians. Also, we've got our walkways, as you can see on the site plans. We've got our walkways, we've got our pedestrian crossings, and there's no clash on site. Everything is well planned. And we also made sure that we spoke with our suppliers. There will not be deliveries as agreed. There will not be deliveries in the peak hours, knowing that it is a very busy environment. We took into consideration the school especially, and we said there will not be deliveries between the hours of 8 and 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. So our delivery periods will be between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. strictly, and it's going to be based on deliveries that are scheduled for that particular day. We've got a whole lot more on traffic management, but I wouldn't want to bore you with that because you have access to it. It's printable and we could send copies to everyone. All right, I'll be moving straight away to the site rules, which will be adhered to strictly. On the site rules, the site will be opening Mondays to Fridays, strictly 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And everyone, all operatives must sign in and out at the beginning and the end of the shift. Everyone coming to site must have a skilled card for the particular job they are coming to do. We have a whole lot of them on this page, and we could make them available in printed copies to everyone, so as to get more information. That'll be it for now. Like I said, we can print them, we can make copies available. We have a whole lot that time would not permit me to touch. I'll hand you over to my colleague now. And lest I forget, we've got 5 miles per hour speed limit, just like my colleague mentioned earlier. Drive within the site premises. I'll hand you over to Nick, my colleague, and he takes you to the next stage. Thank you.
Cheers, David. Yeah, hi, good morning all. My name's Nick. Been with the company a couple of years. I'm site supervisor on this site and also fire marshal. So I'll just quickly go over the fire and emergency procedures on this. Obviously, not to skirt over it or anything like that. It's very important, but I'll just give you the general view, just so you know as clients that the workers and everyone that's visiting the site and even around the site, anywhere near it, is safe, and there's a plan in place for when things go wrong, basically. Yeah, emergency procedures. In the event of emergency alarm, stop what you're doing, leave the building by the designated escape route. This will all be signposted. There's walkways, and there's obviously a muster point to eventually follow to. Raise the alarm if obviously an emergency is spotted. If the alarm has not already been raised, obviously alert others to the fact that there's something wrong as well on your way towards the assembly point. Follow the signs along the way, like I say. And the muster point, as seen on the map, is just behind the main car park at the north of the site there, near the site offices. Obviously, fire marshal is to be told immediately if he doesn't already know, and it would be up to him to call the emergency services. So on this site, like I say, that's me. We've also got first aiders for any other emergencies, so that's Stuart and Andy on this site. If these personnel change at all, the records will be updated, and there'll be a quick toolbox talk on the changes that have been made, basically, just so everyone on site is aware of who they need to go to in the case of emergency or an accident or a near miss or anything like that. As I say, muster points at the rear of the car park, and there'll also be a poster up in the site office and in the canteen saying where the nearest hospital is, just for any emergencies that need to be, if someone's able to take someone in a car or something like that. And that'll be Bramley General up the road, and there'll be directions to how to get there. On those posters, but like I say, they'll be in the site offices and the welfare kitchen and that as well. So nice and available to everyone. Other thing I just wanted to go over as well was the induction procedure and checklist. So this would be for, obviously, another important point. Every worker that we're going to have on your site, we want to make sure they're basically competent, trained, and aware of everything that they need to do, the rules they need to obey on site, and if anything goes wrong, what they need to do. So this induction will basically see to that. And we've decided it's not going to be a case of, oh, we'll do inductions 9 a.m. every Tuesday, because if you get a new starter that starts on Wednesday, he's then got to work 5 days before he gets even his induction, and that's when stuff can go wrong. So we've decided that we're going to put in place and have the means to be able to do an induction on everyone's first day, no matter what day they start on. So this will involve a few different managers being involved. So that'll be site manager Matt and myself doing them as well. We'll help each other out a bit. But these will take place on people's first day, 8 a.m. Whenever anyone's starting new. And basically, the thing we want to make clear to the people who are starting, the new workers, we want to make sure that they know that we are committed to their health and safety, really. So they know they're in safe hands, and obviously you as the client needs to know that you don't want anyone injured on this site. And so everything we're going to go over in the induction will be basically the outline of the project. So what we're after what we're after from this plan. Fire emergency, like I've just been over, emergency exits, muster points. They'll be told the location of the welfare facilities, the smoking area, and the toilets. All the relevant risk assessments and method statements that relate to their trade and what their job that they're doing on that site. We're going to identify for them who the first aiders and the fire marshals are, obviously, like I've just been over. The accident report procedure, what to do if something does happen or a near miss is to happen, who to go to and how it's reported. the individual workers' responsibility for their health and safety and everyone around them and the general public. The site rules will be gone over as well. So this would be stuff like PPE to be worn, radio rules, smoking, hot works, how to request permit for works, and the pedestrian routes to follow and everything. And yeah, that's the main points that we'll be going over with them. There's also the case of some people don't work there absolutely every day. So you do get visitors to site that do come regularly enough, but they're not there every day. So there's people like architects and structure surveyors and stuff like that. They will be given inductions as well, but it'll basically be proportionate to how often someone comes and what their role is. And we wouldn't give it to every single visitor that's only there for like 10 minutes or whatever, but it'll be taken under account as per the situation, basically. So yeah, that's the inductions pretty much wrapped up. Going over to Matt next.
Thanks, Nick. Hi guys, I'm Matt. I'm the site manager. I've been working for MSAM for 4 years now on various projects, and I'd like to run through in a bit more detail about our storage. So as you can see on the east side of the property, we have 2 containers there. These are predominantly for fragile items, valuable goods, and any equipment that can't afford to be stored outside. You'll also see in one of those cabins, we have a pink area, which will be our cosh room. This will be all secure with keys kept in the site office, and myself and Nick with access to these for anyone who needs them. You'll also see next to that, we have an outside area, which will be for long items such as timber, any forms of scaffold, and other materials that we might well need. And then going down to the south part, you'll also see another pink square. This is a asbestos DCU, which is decontamination unit, and this is what we'll have in place for the asbestos, which is inside the boiler room. From there, we can move on to the welfare, which is located at the north of the project. As you can see there, we have 1 cabin, which is our site office. This will have internet. We'll be using walkie-talkies, and the managers and supervisors will have access to laptops and iPads. There we also have a canteen, which will supply heating, 2 kettles, 2 microwaves with 1 dedicated for vegetarians, vegans. We'll also have hot water powered from a water heater, cold water for washing up and cleaning, and they'll also be installing a drinking tap so that everyone on site will have plenty of water. We've also, in the canteen, we've ensured that there's enough tables and seating for at least 16 people at a time. Moving on to our WC arrangements, we have a cabin which is divided into 2 sections. The main section will have 3 cubicles, 3 urinals, and 3 basins. We'll then also have an independent section which will have accessible toilet or can be used by female staff. This will also have wash hand basins, and both will have hand dryers as well. There's also a drying room with heating, benches, and hooks capable of accommodating all the people on site. As you can see to the left of the cabins, we are planning to power these areas with a generator with an acoustic screen around, and we'll be dealing with the waste via tanks under the cabins, which will be monitored and emptied by a licensed waste carrier. All the provisions that we've made are based on having 25 to 30 personnel on site at one time. I think that's all we got. So I will now pass you on to Andy, who will run through site security and document control.
Lovely, thank you, Matt. Okay, guys, as well as being the project manager, I do actually have qualification in psychology, which is one of the reasons as well why I was employed for this job. What we've got is we're very strict now with our mental health policy. It's become a massive problem in this work industry in recent years, and rightly so. I believe it should have been brought to people's attention a little bit earlier than it has. But more and more people now are aware of just how delicate mental health is to everybody. No matter how big and strong you are, you can be brought down like this. Now, here at MSAM PLC, we take mental health very seriously and specifically employed somebody like myself with the skills required to notice and support those who are struggling with mental health at work. Now, figures will show that 1 in 6 experience mental health problems at work. Common mental health factors happen outside of work, and some people don't even show symptoms of those, or they do if you're trained enough to notice them. As a manager, I have a duty to the employer to manage the problem at work and make reasonable adjustments. Understanding the causes of stress, like lack of control over how people do their work, bullying and violence and harassment, a blame culture within your organisation, lack of clarity about your role. These are sort of things that I will be ironing out when we do the site induction to make people aware this is not acceptable on any site, I like to think, but definitely not on this site. Now, there are a few examples of common causes for mental health problems, like having too much work to do in the time available, travelling and commuting, being responsible for safety and others at work, working long hours, dangerous job, the list goes on. Now, why it's important that as a company, we have nominated somebody to assist and monitor the situation with everybody's mental health and adapt if necessary. So what I will be doing is having brief toolbox talks on a regular basis with people at work, just to remind people and just to encourage people to be looking out for signs of people should anyone be suffering. Now, the reason we are so passionate about this is simple, and amazes me how it's taken so long before people have recognised just how important it is. People's safety is always number one. We believe that in order to have a happy client, produce happy results, a happy workforce is very important. And a happy workforce will give you fewer accidents at work, higher commitment, and a higher productivity. So understanding how to spot this is something we want to implement across all workers to help us manage the mental health and for everybody caring for the work and the people around them. So what can we do to help prevent this? Well, the Employment Rights Act is relevant to issues regarding work-related stress. This may be particularly so for situations where there are challenges made by employees in relation to the rights under this Act. Employ a competent person to help deal with this matter, which is why I was employed into this job with this company, and find the risks before they become a huge problem and put a plan in place. Now, I have a plan which I have been using across this industry for as long as I've been involved in the management side, because I've always felt it's important for to be at one with your work colleagues and understanding their mental state in order to keep a happy workplace and happy people. So my plan is I have a designated quiet room. If I can spot something with somebody, I talk to them. I take them into a designated quiet room. I teach them some breathing exercises whilst playing some very quiet classical music. After that, it normally gets people into a bit of a more relaxed, open sort of phase, which we would then talk, and I will give them details for a mental health professional local in the area, where we have been in touch with the local hospital who have provided us with leaflets and details of contacts for people suffering with mental health. So, as well as mental health, very important is site security. Now, for site security, what we're doing is, as you can see from the outline, the boundary outline, this will all be a hoarding of 3x3 posts, concreted 600mm into the ground with 12mm ply, which will be painted and decorated in quite a bright white colour, so it will be a bit noticeable to people on the streets. And any signs that we put outside the hoarding will be clearly visible to the public eye. Now, as well as that, we've got steel gates on both entrances, and those steel gates will be managed in the mornings by David and his team to allow people to come in, because we're aware of the school. People would like to think we'll all be in by then anyway, which means by that point, David's team will make sure the gates are shut, secured, so that nobody can get in or out of the site without permission. Now, the clearance around the pylon we maintained was a 6-metre distance all around the site, exclusion zone. Horden not taken to the edge of the road on the corner, what you can see down by Bramley Road, that was taken into account as a safety measure, so that when people pull up on the corners, they can see round the corner without any difficulties. Now, we will also be installing a 24-hour surveillance. It's a camera security system. We use a company called RoboWatch for the 24-hour surveillance, and it's accessible through all cameras on your phone 24 hours a day. Anything is to go on site at night time, they alert RoboWatch straight away. The police will be called, and they will entertain the site and find out what the issue is with that. So 24 hours a day, we offer a high security level, and with the boundaries what we put in, it's very secure. As well as the security, we have a document control in process. We have a filing cabinet which we will be keeping in the main office to keep hold of every documentation that goes through this site, and every documentation that goes through this site will also go through me. So if all else fails, we do have a cabinet up the top of the in the site office, which will have all your relevant forms, site registers, induction forms, toolbox, talks, health and safety policy, all these forms which will be easy accessible. For the more delicate forms that do contain people's personal information, for data protection reasons, we will have a drawer which will be secured by key, which myself and the site manager, Matt, will have. So if anybody needs any of those forms, that will be the place to go.
Yeah, can I just jump back in there now, Andy?
Sure, thank you.
So one of the major considerations, obviously, we spoke about the traffic management plan around site, is the deliveries in and out of site. So what we've tried to introduce is a loading bay on site as well, so that if deliveries were to come at the same time, they can be pulled up on site, deliveries can be unloaded into the material storage, but we can also have a wagon or a lorry or delivery truck waiting, ready, so that there's no traffic backing up along School Road where we know it's going to get busy with the children. The skips are located close to the site exit for this, but one consideration that we have thought about throughout the project is, as the delivery vehicles come in and out of site, there's going to be an increase in dust created by the lorries. So on a weekly basis, if not at more regular intervals if needed, we are going to road sweep School Road. And that'll carry on to the end of the project. At the end of the project, there is plans to resurface School Road, should it need it. But at the beginning of the project, if I just go back to the traffic plan, one thing we are introducing as well as maintaining the vision around this corner for the car parking, for the cars turning, is for a zebra crossing to be introduced, and that's to be coordinated with the site across the road and their management team, so that it's a little bit of a joint effort that at certain times, dropping off and picking up times, there will be a lollipop lady or man in attendance on this crossing. We know from the statistics that a large proportion of the school drop-offs are done along this pavement. So what we want to do is try take away any children walking down this side of the road. I think if anyone else has got anything to add.
Should we get a item 2?
So, Andy, do you want to invite people for questions?
Yeah.
Okay,
guys,
then
so...
if Yeah, go on, Andy. I was going to say I was going to wrap it up with a little round of applause there. Have you got a little closing speech, Andrew?
No, I was just going to say, so if anybody's got any questions, now is the time.
Okay, well, as is traditional, then let's give them a round of applause. Yeah. Okay, 28 minutes 46 seconds. Good timing, boys. Good timing. Okay, can I invite the first question then, please?
How are you? You may have said this, but how are you getting power and water to the welfare units?
Okay, so one of the major sort of restrictions we had around site with planning applications and things was there was a real pushback on placing cabins anywhere along this boundary line, and not wanting to have welfare facilities and people up against and cabins up against these for the fact the children are walking past. This led us to positioning the cabins in this back corner, so we're well away from the access roads around. It did introduce a challenge that we then have services to take across. We looked at various options, but we felt the safest and the most feasible was to introduce cabins with tanks underneath to keep the waste away, and introduce a generator which we would screen with acoustic Harris fencing, and that would therefore manage the noise. What it also allowed us to do is, where we've got an asbestos R&D survey booked in to be taken into account the boiler room, and at this stage we're not really sure whether that is going to take out a lot of the services from the main building anyway. If it does, we have got plans in place that would reduce program times and take downtime on site, therefore minimizing any obstruction out off the site.
Thanks. Brilliant answer.
Yes, it was.
That shut me up.
We've actually got a spec sheet for the generator as well, if anyone would like to see that, but that'll be in your packs.
Will you be taking access to the roof underneath the power lines at any point?
No, there's no plans to, I don't believe. Andy, do you want to take that?
Well, for plans for under the roof.
Yeah.
No, the roof has already been inspected, and we'll need no further work doing to it. It's all going to be a renovation of the internal work. And obviously, if there's going to be anything, it will be coming out of just below the eaves. I've seen further drawings, any outlets are going further out of the eaves, so we're going to be well below the line. We're not going to be interfering with that.
Thank you.
You're on mute, Gary.
That's going to be on my grave, you know that. You're on mute. So, got a few questions, if that's okay. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask one question which was thrown at myself, was manual handling. How are you going to deal with manual handling when you've got your laydown area to the right and into the main building?
Andy, or who? Does anyone? I'll take that if anyone wants to.
Yeah, you go for that one, Stu, if you do.
Yep. So the idea around the collection and deliveries is that deliveries will be able to become brought in one at a time. Deliveries will be booked in accordance with the delivery times and avoiding school times. So no deliveries between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. and 4 p.m. Those deliveries will be scheduled so that, like I said, that we can only get one in at a time. Where we do have a backup, we've got a waiting holding area, and those lorries can be brought in, held, and then brought back around the one-way system and in as required. When deliveries come in, they'll be parked up on the road and brought straight in to the drop-down area. That'll be done by manual handling as required, and then proper manual handling procedures will be brought in to take tools and materials into site via the entranceways. We don't anticipate there being any major materials that would need forking in, that would need anything other than manual handling.
And adding to that, while considering where the storage area will be, That was why we located it close to the main entrance, thereby reducing the distance by which the materials need to be moved. And in the case of supplies of goods or materials that could be be reduced into parts, we could undo the manual handling aspect of that as well by breaking the material in bits, and that's one of the things we considered as well. Thank you.
Okay. Second one, I've got 3 or 4. Waste management on your skips. Is it just one skip or is it segregated? And do you have a waste management plan as such?
Andy?
Oh, I thought someone else was on skips. Okay, no, that's an area at the moment for skips. So obviously we are going to require a plasterboard skip at some stage, which will be separate. And the area for skips there is big enough to have 2 6-yard skips in. So as it is at this stage, we only need the general waste skip. So until we've cleared everything out, and then we start onto the next phase, where we'll be using plasterboards. That's when we'll introduce a plasterboard skip there as well. For in the meantime, if we do come across any little piece of plasterboard skip, plasterboard at the moment, it will be put into a ton bag and just kept in the same area as where the general waste skip is, but next to it, so it's all the rubbish will be kept in one place.
And obviously, when the asbestos works start, they won't be going anywhere near our skips. They'll be taken away by a licensed carrier as well. So
yeah. The space indicated there is just for a decontamination unit. That their waste, like Nick said, will be taken straight off of site.
Okay, thank you. And I'm gonna make it my last one. When you're doing your traffic management plan, what is the how are you going to control the road on the main road without clogging the road up? What is the management plan for that? So the Bramley A Road.
Bramley A Road. Yeah, so that's the reason for the introduction of the one-way system, really, to stop things coming in and out of the same entrance and any congestion backing up on this road, which would then affect the main road.
But is it anticipated you're going to come from the left and then going out to the right, so you keep those junctions clear, or what's the?
Yes. Yeah, we're going to. Sorry.
Okay. In the traffic management team, we've got it's a team of say 5 people, properly trained. So in the case of deliveries, definitely we're going to be aware on the site that we're expecting deliveries, and every hand will be on deck. The guys will be out there to control the traffic and make sure that there's no obstruction. And if you look at the site plan, close to where we have the steel tower, that's why our Odin had to go in, had to cave in at that point, so that vehicles coming can see oncoming vehicles on the school road as well. So we have taken that, or we've taken all that into consideration, thereby not causing any obstruction on the road. Andy, you want to come in?
No, sorry, I was stretching. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. You're on mute, Andy. Adam.
Just a quick one. Who's designed the hoarding around the site?
A structural engineer we asked.
Right.
We calculated all the wind loads.
So it follows a temporary works design.
Yeah.
So just the last one from me as well. Do you know what fire extinguishers you're going to be using around the site?
We're taking into account the general ones. So obviously there's electrics at play, so we'll have our testing on the colours now. But the ones that deal with the general fuels, I believe that's the red one. We'll have our CO2 one, and we'll have our foam one for electrics as well. But these will be all gone over in the site induction, like the locations of them around the site. For a site this size, I'd say probably a good maybe 8 to 10 points of fire extinguishers, maybe different types at certain areas. Obviously, we'll have a good look around and review exactly what would be best in a particular area. Obviously, you wouldn't have a fire extinguisher that doesn't need to be in a certain place. We'd have them in the relevant areas. But that'll all be gone over in the site inductions on everyone's first day, so they know where they're going. And we'll do regular toolbox talks about the locations of them, like testing people on them as well, just so that it's kept fresh in the memory. So if anything does happen, there's easy access to them, basically.
Yeah, spot on.
Oh, we've got time for the last question from Daniel.
Just one last one. Have you given consideration to how you're going to protect the open drain to the north of the work site?
We have. So one thing I failed to mention, which should have mentioned earlier, is we brought the hoarding in to avoid any overspill into that area and to release it for the IDB. But there's also a geotechnical survey in place for this water course.
Great. So will that include things like cut-off drains and potentially putting cut-off drains and things to stop anything coming from the site offices or from the car parking prior to the water? Yeah, perfect.
Yep. So our site offices, like Matt alluded to, are going to be tanked, so they won't be actually draining into there, but they will be monitored to obviously make sure there's no overspill. But these will be tanked so that there is no leakage into this drain.
Ideal. Thank you very much.
I think it's time for a round of applause, don't you? I think that was 5 minutes of questions. Let's go.
Hey.
It might have been just over there, Stu. Never mind.
That's good. Very good.